Keanu Reeves had always been a man of peace. He wasn't the type to chase attention or show off. Even though he was one of the most famous actors in the world, known for playing tough characters like John Wick, in real life he was quiet, kind, and down-to-earth. That evening, after finishing a long charity motorcycle ride along the California coast, Keanu wanted some time to relax. He didn't want to be around people asking for selfies or praising his movies. He just wanted a peaceful meal, a drink, and some quiet time. He rode his black motorcycle through a small road just outside Santa Barbara. The sun had already set, and the sky was turning dark blue. After riding for hours, Keanu saw a little bar with a neon sign glowing in the distance. It looked like an old roadside place. Not very fancy, but it seemed quiet. That was exactly what he needed. He parked his motorcycle outside the bar and stepped inside. The air smelled of grilled meat and beer. Old music was playing from a jukebox. In the corner, there were only a few people inside, some older locals sitting at one table, a young couple at another, and a group of loud bikers sitting near the pool table. Keanu didn't pay them much attention. He quietly walked to the end of the bar and sat on a stool, his long hair tucked behind his ears. He wore a flannel shirt, jeans, and boots. Nothing about him looked fancy or rich. He looked just like any other traveler passing through. The bartender, a friendly man in his 50s with a gray beard, came over with a smile. "What can I get you, Keanu?" Smiled politely. "Just a cheeseburger and a beer, please." "Coming right up," the bartender said, walking away. Keanu took a deep breath and looked around the place. It was cozy. The lights were dim, and the TV above the bar was playing a sports channel with no sound. For a few minutes, everything was calm. Keanu felt like he could finally relax. But the peace didn't last long. The group of bikers in the corner started getting louder. There were about 5 of them, big men with leather jackets, tattoos, and heavy boots. They had already had a few drinks and were now laughing, shouting, and bothering the waitress. Keanu noticed how the waitress looked uncomfortable, but she tried to stay polite. She was young, probably in her 20s, didn't seem to know how to handle them. Keanu stayed quiet and focused on his meal when it arrived. The burger was simple, but good. The beer was cold. It was almost the perfect break-and-till one of. The bikers noticed him. "Hey, who's the quiet guy at the bar?" one of them said loudly. Keanu didn't turn around. Yes. He kept eating, hoping they would ignore him, but the biker stood up and walked over to him. He was tall, muscular, and had a rough look on his face. He leaned against the bar and stared at Keanu. "You new around here?" he asked. Keanu nodded politely, "Just passing through." The biker looked him up and down. "You don't talk much, do you?" Keanu smiled gently. "I try to keep to myself. It should have been enough." But the biker didn't like being ignored. He smirked and looked back at his friends. "Hey, this guy thinks he's too good to talk to us." The other bikers laughed. Another one shouted, "Maybe he's scared." Keanu didn't respond. He just kept eating quietly. The first biker picked up Keanu's beer and pretended to examine it. "What's this light beer? No wonder you're so quiet." He put the beer back down, but this time he spilled a bit of it on the counter close to Keanu's plate. Keanu looked at the spill, then at the man. "Please," he said calmly, "I'm just trying to enjoy my dinner." The biker leaned in. "Oh, we'll let you enjoy it. But first, maybe you should say, 'Sorry for being rude.'" "I haven't been rude," Keanu said gently. "I've just been quiet." "Same thing to us," the man said, laughing. The bartender noticed what was happening and came over. "Everything okay here?" Before Keanu could answer, the biker turned to the bartender and said, "Relax. We're just making friends." The bartender looked at Keanu. Keanu nodded, as if to say it was fine. But it wasn't fine. The tension was growing. Keanu tried to finish his meal quickly so he could leave. He didn't want trouble, but as he picked up his keys to go, another biker stepped in front of him, blocking his way. "Where are you going, Mr. Quiet?" he said, laughing. "I'd like to go now," Keanu said calmly. The biker slapped the keys from his hand. They fell to the floor with a clink. Keanu looked at the keys, then looked back at the man. His face was still calm, but his eyes were serious now. Another biker stood up from the table. "Look at him," he said. "He thinks he's a tough guy." Keanu didn't speak. He bent down, picked up his keys slowly, stood up again. The first biker stepped even closer and put a hand on Keanu's shoulder. "Maybe you need to learn some manners, friend." Keanu gently brushed the man's hand off. "You don't want to do this," he said softly. That sentence made them laugh even more. "You don't want to do this?" The man mocked. "Are you going to do? Call your Hollywood friends?" Still, Keanu stayed calm. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't look scared. But something in his posture changed. He stood straighter, wasn't running. He was ready, but only if he had to be. The waitress stood in the corner, watching nervously. The bartender quietly reached under the bar, not sure if he needed to call someone or break it up himself. Keanu looked at the group. They were drunk. They were loud. They had no idea who they were messing with. They just saw a man who didn't fight back. They didn't recognize the face. They didn't recognize the calm confidence. They didn't know this. Quiet Man had trained in martial arts for years. They didn't know he had played one of the most skilled fighters on screen and learned the moves for real. They didn't know. He had spent years training in jiu-jitsu, judo, and other forms of combat, not to harm but to control. And now, they had pushed him too far. Still, Keanu gave them one last chance. "I don't want any trouble," he said. "Let me go." The biker smiled and raised his hand, ready to shove him again. And that's when everything changed. The moment became still, like the calm just before a storm. The biker raised his hand to shove Keanu again, thinking it would make his friends laugh. But before his hand even touched Keanu's chest, something unexpected happened. Keanu moved not. Fast or wild, but with control and precision. In one smooth motion, he turned slightly, caught the biker's wrist, and stepped aside. The biker's own weight pulled him forward, and Keanu gently guided him down until the man's knees hit the floor. It wasn't violent, it wasn't loud, but it shocked everyone. The other bikers stood up, their chairs scraping loudly against the floor. The laughter stopped. The room went silent except for the jukebox still playing an old country song in the background. The biker, who had been put down, tried to get up. But Keanu helped him up with one hand and let go calmly. "I told you," he said quietly. "You didn't want this." The man backed away, clearly confused. He had expected a scared man, not someone who could move like that. Another biker, the biggest of the group, stepped forward. He didn't say anything, just swung his arm, trying to hit Keanu in the side. But Keanu saw it coming. He ducked low, moved behind the biker, and placed a hand on his shoulder. Then, using his other arm, he lightly pushed the man's elbow. The biker lost balance and stumbled forward, crashing gently onto a couch. Again, it wasn't a punch or kick. Keanu hadn't hurt anyone. He was just using their own force against them. The bartender froze behind the counter. The waitress gasped. The young couple in the corner leaned forward, their eyes wide. The old man by the window took off his glasses to get a better look. "Who is this guy?" one of the bikers asked, still unsure. Keanu stood calmly in the middle of the room. His breathing was steady. His hands were open, not clenched in. Fists. He wasn't angry. He wasn't proud. He was just ready. A third biker charged forward. This time it wasn't a joke. He tried to tackle Keanu, hoping his strength would overpower him. Keanu stepped to the side, grabbed the man's jacket, and turned. With a simple twist of his hip, he threw the biker onto a padded bench seat. The man groaned, not from pain, but from surprise. He looked up, blinking, as if he couldn't believe what had just happened. Now, the bar was in full silence. No one moved. The jukebox clicked to a new song, but no one noticed. Keanu looked around and took a step back. "I don't want to hurt anyone," he said, still calm. "I just want peace." The waitress slowly walked toward him, her eyes wide. "Sir, are you?" She stopped mid-sentence. One of the older men near the door suddenly stood up. He pointed at Keanu and said, "Wait a minute, is that?" Before he could finish, the first biker who had started the trouble looked closely at Keanu's face. His eyes narrowed. He stepped forward carefully, now not with a challenge, but with curiosity. "Hold on, I've seen you before." Keanu said nothing. He simply looked at him with quiet eyes. Then another man whispered, "That's Keanu Reeves. That's John Wick." As if a light bulb had turned on in the entire room, everyone suddenly recognized him. The long hair, the calm eyes, the strong but peaceful presence. The man in front of them wasn't just someone who looked like John Wick. It was him. The bikers all stepped back. The ones who were on the floor now sat up slowly. No one made another move. The first biker who had mocked him earlier suddenly looked ashamed. His voice was shaky now. "Man, I didn't know it was you." Keanu nodded softly. "You didn't need to." The bartender stepped out from behind the bar. "Keanu Reeves," he said, still in shock. "You're him?" Keanu looked at him and smiled kindly. "Only on weekends," he joked lightly. A quiet laugh came from the back of the room. The tension started to melt. One of the bikers, the one who had been thrown onto the couch, raised his hand like a student. "I just want to say sorry, really. I didn't mean to. We didn't know, we were just playing around." Keanu nodded again. "I understand, but respect is something we should show everyone. It's not just people we recognize." His words weren't angry. They weren't a lecture, but they hit hard. The waitress came closer and offered him a glass of water. "You're amazing," she whispered. "Thank you." Keanu took the water, thanked her, and sipped slowly. Around him, the bikers stood awkwardly, unsure of what to do. They weren't used to being humbled, especially not by someone who didn't even try to fight. After a few quiet minutes, one of the bikers gathered the courage to speak. "Mr. Reeves, you're nothing like we imagined. You could have, hurt us." Keanu gave a small smile. "That's never the goal." Bartender finally relaxed. "Sir, your meal's on the house?" "It's the least we can do." Keanu shook his head. "No need. I always pay for what I eat." He took out some cash, placed it gently on the counter, and finished the last sip of water outside. The night had grown colder, but the sky was clear. Keanu walked out of the bar quietly. Didn't wait for thanks or praise. Just wanted to ride again. As he climbed onto his motorcycle, one of the bikers came outside and called out, "Mr. Reeves!" Keanu turned. "I just wanted to say thank you for not making us look worse." Keanu looked at him, then nodded once. "Be kind next time. Everyone's fighting a battle." With that, he started the engine. The motorcycle roared gently too. Life, and he rode off into the night. No spotlight, no reporters, no crowds. But inside that bar, every person stood still for a long time because they had just witnessed something powerful. It's not a movie scene. It's not a stunt, but real calm strength. The kind that doesn't shout. The kind that protects without needing to attack. And none of them would forget it. Shall I expand part 3 now? But what nobody knew at that moment was that one of the young men at a back table had quietly taken out his phone during the incident. He hadn't recorded the beginning. He was too shocked to even think of it, but he had managed to capture the last few moments when Keanu calmly handled the bikers and walked out. The young man, whose name was Andy, was a local college student. He looked at the video, then at his friend and whispered, "Dude, is that really John Wick?" His friend only nodded, eyes wide in disbelief. Andy knew he had captured something special, but instead of uploading it right away, he decided to wait. He could see that the people in the bar were still processing what had happened. He noticed the bikers sitting down now, heads lowered, their bravado completely gone. One of them, the first to confront Keanu, was actually shaking a little, not from pain, but from shock. "We really messed up," he mumbled to his friend. The others agreed quietly. The bartender, after wiping the counter, spoke up. "You boys got off lucky tonight. Could have really hurt you." But he chose not to. There was no anger in his voice, and he had kind of respect. The bikers listened. They looked at each other, and even though they'd never say it out loud, they all knew the bartender was right. The waitress, who had been worried all evening, finally let out a deep breath. She went over to the bikers, but instead of scolding them, she said softly, "You should be grateful. Not everyone gets a second chance to show some respect." Her words were simple, but they meant a lot. One of the bikers, the biggest one, nodded and whispered, "Yeah, you're right." As the night went on, talk in the bar slowly returned, but everything felt different now. The locals discussed Keanu quietly, remembering his calm face and gentle way of speaking. Some of the regulars even felt proud to have been there. Andy, the college student, texted his friends about what happened, promising he would share the video but only if everyone agreed it was okay. He didn't want to embarrass anyone, especially Keanu, who had tried so hard to avoid attention. Meanwhile, outside, Keanu rode down the highway. The wind cooled his face and helped clear his mind. He thought about what had just happened, not with anger or pride, but with a kind of quiet sadness. He had always wanted to live a simple life, to help people, to be kind. He never liked using his skills to show off or prove anything. For him, self-control was more important than winning any fight. He remembered something his martial arts teacher had told him years ago. The strongest person is not the one who knocks others down, but the one who helps them up. Keanu smiled a little at that thought. Tonight he had done exactly that. He hoped maybe, just maybe, the bikers would remember the lesson too. Back at the bar, Andy finally decided to show the video to the bartender and the waitress. They gathered around his phone, watching the clip in silence. The video showed Keanu moving gracefully, never angry, never hurting anyone. It showed how he had helped one biker to his feet, and how he had chosen peace over pride. Bartender said quietly, "People need to see this." The waitress nodded. "Maybe it'll remind folks that being strong isn't about hurting others," Andy asked. "Should I share it?" After a moment, the bartender nodded. "As you keep it respectful, make sure everyone knows the truth, that he didn't want to fight, just wanted to be left alone." With their blessing, Andy posted the video online, along with a short note. "Keanu Reeves stopped by our bar tonight. Some bikers tried to mess with him, not knowing who he was. He didn't fight back. He just handled it. Calm, kind, and cool as ever. He made sure to blur the bikers' faces, wanting to protect their dignity." Within an hour, the video started to get views. By morning, it was everywhere. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Keanu, the real life. John Wick showing self-control and kindness instead of anger. Social media exploded with positive comments. Fans praised Keanu for his calm strength. Even people who didn't know him well were impressed by the way he treated everyone, even those who weren't kind to him. In the following days, the bar received calls from reporters and curious locals. The bartender answered every question. Honestly, always reminding people that Keanu didn't want attention. He just wanted peace. The bikers, too, changed their ways. They came back to the bar, this time quieter, more polite, even offering to help the waitress with chores or picking up trash in the parking lot. They'd learned their lesson in a way they would never forget. Andy's video inspired people around the country. It wasn't just about a famous actor or a bar fight. It was about how we treat each other. It showed that real strength is choosing peace, even when you have the power to fight. Some days later, a small package arrived at the bar. Inside was a handwritten note from Keanu Reeves. It said, "Thank you for your kindness and understanding. Keep treating each other with respect, Keanu." The bartender framed the note and hung it on the wall for everyone to see. It became a symbol of what had happened tonight when kindness won and when even the toughest people learned something new. The story didn't end there. People who saw the video shared their own stories of times when someone's kindness changed everything. The bar became a local legend, not just for its burgers and beer, but for being the place where Keanu Reeves taught everyone that night. The bikers never forgot. They never tried to bully anyone again. They even started their own charity rides, inspired by Keanu's example. The waitress, who used to be afraid of rowdy customers, became more confident knowing she had witnessed something special. And so, the lesson spread far beyond that little bar. People everywhere remembered that you don't have to be a movie star to be strong. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay calm, be kind, and walk away from a fight. Let me know, Way. The news of what happened at the little roadside bar kept spreading faster than anyone expected. In the days that followed, the short video of Keanu Reeves quietly handling the situation with the bikers was being shared everywhere on phones. Computers, even local TV, people all around the country were talking about the story. And for a little bar on the side of a lonely highway, it was something new and exciting. But inside the bar, life was slowly returning to normal. The waitress, whose name was Sarah, started her shift one evening feeling different. Before the night of Keanu's visit, She had always felt nervous when certain customers got loud or rude. Now, after watching how Keanu handled things with patience and calm, she felt stronger inside. She knew she could speak up for herself if needed, and she didn't have to feel scared anymore. The bikers, too, were changed. They came back to the bar a few days later, but this time they walked in quietly, their heads a little lower, their voices softer. The regulars noticed right away. The men who had once acted so tough and loud now seemed thoughtful, even shy. One of the locals, a friendly old man named Joe, nodded to them from his usual seat. "You boys here to cause trouble?" He joked gently. The leader of the bikers, Jake, shook his head. "No, sir. We're just here for burgers and to say sorry to everyone." The other bikers nodded. They walked over to Sarah, looking embarrassed. Jake spoke up, his voice honest. "We acted badly. We're sorry. We shouldn't have treated you or anyone else that way." He handed her a small bouquet of flowers he'd picked up from a roadside stand. The gesture was simple, but it meant a lot. Sarah smiled. "Thank you. That takes guts." The bikers didn't stay long that night. They ate quietly, paid for their food, and left a generous tip. As they left, the bartender, whose name was Mike, gave them a friendly wave. "Remember," he said, "respect goes a long way." After they left, the regulars in the bar talked about the change they saw.
What?
"Movie guy did more than just stop a fight," Joe said. "He changed them." As the days went by, the story attracted more attention. A local newspaper wrote about what had happened, focusing not just on Keanu Reeves, but on the kindness and lessons learned. "A star's quiet strength changes a town," the headline read. People started coming to the bar out of curiosity, hoping to meet Sarah or Mike or even the bikers who had become a little famous in their own way. But Keanu didn't return. He was back in Los Angeles, quietly doing his work and helping with charities as he always did. He never gave interviews about the night at the bar. In fact, he told his friends, "It wasn't about me. Just wanted everyone to be safe." Still, his message was everywhere. In schools nearby, teachers talked to students about the story, reminding them that real strength was about patience, not violence. Parents told their kids, "If you ever see someone being bullied, remember what Keanu did. He stayed calm and helped, not hurt." Reporters wanted to talk to him, but he always said, "The story isn't really about me. It's about what happens when people choose kindness over anger." Andy was surprised by the messages he received from people, faraway strangers, thanking him for showing a moment of hope and respect. One evening, a letter arrived at the bar. It was handwritten, the words neat and simple. "To everyone at the bar, thank you for being kind to each other. We all make mistakes, and what matters is what we do next. Wishing you peace and respect." Keanu Mike, the bartender, showed the letter to Sarah and Joe, and together they decided to frame it and hang it next to the front door. Every time someone new came in, they pointed to the letter and told the story of the night when something special happened in their little bar. Even the bikers changed their ways outside the bar. Jake and his friends started helping out in the community. They volunteered at a local animal shelter, cleaned up a park, and rode in a charity event to raise money for children's hospitals. The people who once saw them as troublemakers began to see them as neighbors who were trying to be better. Sometimes someone would ask, "What made you change?" Jake would smile and say, "A man showed us respect even when we didn't deserve it. That changes you." The bar became busier, but it didn't lose its cozy feeling. Mike, Sarah, and Joe made sure everyone who came in felt welcome, no matter who they were. The lesson from that night spread throughout the small town. People seemed just a bit more patient with each other. If someone dropped a drink or bumped into another person, instead of getting angry, they would just smile and help out. Night, a local musician sang a song about the man in flannel and jeans, telling the story of how Keanu Reeves stopped by and quietly changed everything. The regulars clapped along, and Sarah laughed, thinking how lucky they were that someone as kind as Keanu had chosen their bar for his quiet night out. The story reached even further than anyone expected. Across the country, people talked about what had happened in that small bar. Some people argued about whether the story was real, but for those who were there, it didn't matter. They knew what they had seen, a lesson in patience, respect, and the quiet power of kindness. For Keanu, the night was just another small chapter. In his journey, a reminder that fame and strength mean little without compassion. For the people in the bar, it was a night they would always remember. It taught them that anyone can be strong, anyone can choose to be kind, and sometimes the best heroes are the ones who never want to be seen as heroes at all. Would you like me to continue and expand part 5? As time passed, the story about Keanu Reeves at the little bar took on a life of its own. Even after the video stopped trending online and the reporters stopped calling, the people who were there never forgot what they saw and felt that night. It changed something deep inside each of them. For some, it was just an interesting tale to share with friends. For others, it became a turning point, a reason to look at life differently. The bar itself, once just a quiet stop for travelers, had become a local landmark. People driving along the highway would pull over just to see the place where the John Wick moment happened. Mike, the bartender, welcomed everyone with a warm smile and a story. He kept the framed note from Keanu by the door, and every now and then he would gently point to it if someone asked, "Did it really happen here?" He'd say, "It did, but the real story isn't about the fight. It's about how a little kindness and patience can change people." Sarah, the waitress, found her own confidence growing. She noticed how people treated her with more respect. Now, not just because of what happened, but because she carried herself differently. She remembered Keanu's calm voice and gentle advice, and tried to treat others the same way, even when they were rude or impatient. Sometimes new customers would ask her for details. She would smile and say, "He was just a nice man who wanted everyone to get along." The bikers, once seen as troublemakers, continued on their new path. Jake and his friends rode their motorcycles, but now they wore friendly faces instead of angry looks. They helped out where they could, picking up trash after events, volunteering at food drives, and even helping Mike with repairs at the bar. People began to greet them by name. The local kids who used to cross the street to avoid the bikers now waved as they passed by. Sometimes people asked Jake what made him and his friends change. He would pause and think before answering, but his reply was always honest. "We met someone who could have made us look bad, but he didn't. He chose to forgive us and taught us a lesson about respect. That's not something you forget." The story of the bar reached even further than their little town. Travelers from all over came to see the place, and some even left messages at the door. Notes with words like, "Thank you for inspiring us," or "Real heroes don't always wear capes." One family, traveling from a different state, stopped in just to say hello and share their own story of kindness, a moment when someone else helped them and they needed it most. Meanwhile, Andy, the college student who posted the video, saw how powerful a small act could become. He received messages from people thanking him for sharing the truth in a positive way. He realized that one good deed, or even the act of telling a good story, could help others believe in kindness again. He worked on a new project with his friends, a website, sharing stories about everyday heroes. He called it Quiet Strength. The first story he posted was about Keanu at the bar, but soon people all over sent in their own moments of courage and grace. In Los Angeles, Keanu heard about some of this through friends and fans. He didn't talk about it in interviews. Didn't post about it online. When asked, he would just smile and say, "I was just passing through." Sometimes you get a chance to make things a little better, that's all. His simple response made people like him even more. One day, months after the night in the bar, a letter arrived for Keanu from Jake and the bikers. It read, "Thank you for not judging us. Thank you for showing us another way. We're doing our best to pay it forward. If you ever ride this way again, you have friends here." Keanu wrote back with just a few words. "Keep being kind. That's how the world changes. Wishing you all the best, Keanu." the years rolled on. Stayed open, filled with music and laughter. Mike retired eventually, but the new bartender kept the same framed note on the wall. Sarah became the manager, always reminding her staff, treat everyone like you'd want to be treated. The biker stayed friends with everyone in town. Even new faces quickly learned about the night when a movie star taught a room full of people how to be better just by being calm and kind. Every so often, someone would come in, look around, and ask, "Do you think Keanu will ever come back?" The answer was always the same, maybe, maybe not. But everyone agreed that in a way he had never really left. The lessons he brought that night stayed in their hearts, and habits reminding them that true strength is gentle, real respect is quiet, and that the best kind of hero is the one who lifts others up without asking for anything in return. The story became something much bigger than a single night in a small bar. It became a reminder for everyone, no matter where they were, no matter what had happened in their past, that change was possible. Forgiveness was real, and that kindness could start with just one person and travel farther than anyone could. Imagine Dodd and So, the legend of Keanu Reeves at the little roadside bar lived on, not just as a story people told, but as a lesson that made their small town, maybe even the world, just a little bit kinder.